Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Rudolf Höss, the Commandant of Auschwitz, was one of the most notorious figures of the Holocaust. He oversaw the systematic extermination of more than 1 million people, most of them Jews, along with Poles, Roma, Soviet prisoners of war, and others. After the war, he was captured by British troops in March 1946. Initially, he tried to hide his identity by posing as a farmer under a false name, but investigators eventually discovered who he was. During his imprisonment, he confessed in chilling detail to his role in orchestrating the mass killings, describing the use of Zyklon B gas, the expansion of crematoria, and the efficient methods used to exterminate entire populations. He was called as a witness during the Nuremberg trials, where his testimony shocked the world with its blunt and unemotional description of mass murder. Afterward, he was handed over to Poland, where he was put on trial before the Supreme National Tribunal in Warsaw in 1947. The evidence against him was overwhelming, not only from his own confessions, but also from the testimony of survivors and documents recovered from Auschwitz. He was convicted of crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide. The Polish authorities decided that his execution should take place at Auschwitz itself, a symbolic act meant to deliver justice at the site of his crimes. On April 16, 1947, he was taken to Auschwitz and led to a specially constructed gallows next to Crematorium Way, one of the places where thousands of victims had been gassed and burned under his command. Eyewitnesses recorded that he appeared pale and broken, no longer the cold and commanding figure he once had been. Unlike other Nazi leaders who were executed by hanging in Nuremberg using standard gallows, Höss faced a crude and public execution. The gallows were simple, with no trapdoor mechanism, meaning that his death was slow and agonizing rather than quick. For many, this made his punishment far harsher than those of other Nazi officials. The symbolism of hanging him at Auschwitz, surrounded by the remains of the camp where he had overseen mass slaughter, turned the execution into a form of moral reckoning. Survivors and locals were present to witness the moment, and his death was considered both justice and a reminder of the horrors committed there. Höss's execution was not just about ending the life of a war criminal. It was staged in such a way that he could not escape the shadow of the place where he had sent countless innocents to their deaths. Unlike the executions at Nuremberg, which were carried out with military formality and precision, Rudolf Höss's hanging was intentionally stripped of dignity. The gallows were not hidden inside a prison yard, but erected in the very camp where he had orchestrated industrial-scale murder. This choice carried immense symbolic weight. He was forced to face the physical remnants of his crimes, the crematorium, the barbed wire, the guard towers, and the ruins of barracks where men, women, and children had suffered before being exterminated. Witnesses recalled that Höss looked defeated and fragile. There was no grand last speech, no final words of defiance, as some Nazis had attempted at Nuremberg. Instead, he muttered a short statement acknowledging guilt and asking forgiveness from God. The Polish executioners did not use the efficient long drop method that ensured a quick death by breaking the neck. Instead, they used a simple short drop gallows, which caused him to strangle slowly, his body jerking as life drained away. This deliberate choice reflected the desire that he feel at least a fragment of the suffering he had inflicted upon millions. Another factor that made his execution particularly grim was its atmosphere. Nuremberg's hangings were carried out in secrecy, witnessed only by officials and journalists, and the bodies were disposed of quietly. In contrast, Höss's execution was semi-public, with Polish officials, survivors, and local citizens permitted to attend. For them, it was not merely justice, it was catharsis, a chance to witness the downfall of a man who had represented absolute cruelty. After his body went limp, it was left hanging for a time beside the crematorium, as though justice itself was staged against the backdrop of Auschwitz's machinery of death. For many survivors, this image symbolized the closing of a circle, the camp commandant executed at the scene of his crimes. Höss's death was thus remembered as harsher and more humiliating than those of other Nazis, not because of added physical torture, but because of its slow, crude nature and the overwhelming weight of symbolism. It was designed to strip him of any last shred of power and force him to die where countless innocents had perished under his command.